Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 997, written by SmeetCoPro, The Ancient Neolithic Time Anomaly. To set the scene, the back of my house borders a forest. The area was frequented by Neolithic people, as there are monuments nearby, and a funerary urn was found about 5 meters from my backyard. It's a place where druids would have performed rituals and ceremonies. Anyway, I'm hanging up washing one day with my mind wandering off to all kinds of things, rather than concentrating on the mundane chore. I'm listening to the birds, the wind and the trees, and thinking what a lovely warm day it is. My eye then catches a crow landing about a meter in front of me, but the thing is, it's landing in slow motion. I'm looking at this black bird, slowly landing on the ground with its wings outstretched, and then I realize it is deadly silent. No birds chirping, no wind, no washing flapping in the breeze, nothing. I snap out of my daydreaming and concentrate on what's going on. The sight of the slow motion bird and the silence sends my head into a spin. Am I having a heart attack? Am I alive? Are things slowing down because I'm about to pass out? What's going on? I let go of the peg in my hand and watch as it slowly falls to the floor, like a balloon in slow motion. I start looking all around me and everything has become still. The trees aren't moving, but my head and arms are moving like normal. I'm looking at the sky, clouds, trees, and all around me, and even the house's chimney vent, which always spins, is still as death. It feels like time has stopped, but the weirdest thing is the silence, just nothing. No noise, no sound, just nothingness. I look back at the bird, still stunned at what is happening, and suddenly a wall of sound hits me. The birds chirping, wind in the trees, the flapping wings of the crow as it takes off again, and a strange white noise which must just be ambient sounds. Everything sounds loud and clear. I stand there for about 5 minutes trying to wrap my head around what happened, looking around in disbelief. My heart rate is normal. I feel just fine. In fact, I feel pretty good, like I've just had some kind of out-of-body experience. The whole thing must have been less than a minute, like time lagged and then suddenly caught up again. That was more than a year ago, never experiencing anything like it before or since. Case notes for file 997. The Ancient Neolithic Time Anomaly. So I'm wondering, did the ancestors that used to live there, did they build these monuments and all of this interesting stuff around the site because in this specific location, they knew that weird things would happen, such as this time anomaly? Is it related to that specific location? It's a very interesting idea, and perhaps it is. For them, of course, they would attribute it to the gods or other mysteries of the universe that have no possible answer. They wouldn't have any knowledge of glitches in the Matrix or the idea of a simulation. It wouldn't even be speculative possibility. It does seem that there are specific areas of the world where time will flow inconsistently, perhaps pause or slow down tremendously, but only for certain individuals. For others, they don't notice anything different happening. So it's down to perception of time, maybe not time itself. I wonder if you actually lost a minute, if there was a gap of a minute, that you would have noticed if you had checked your phone before this and after. Was time still flowing freely for everyone else, and it was just your perception that was garbled for some reason? Something about that environment, connecting with your mind, had that effect, it seems like. Case file number 998, written by Sufficient Data 9962. My mom put me to bed. When I was about 10 years old, I would go to bed at around 8:30 p.m. I used to fall asleep in my mom's bed. She had a TV in her room, so I would fall asleep to cartoons. And when she would come up to go to bed, she would wake me up and take me to my bed. One night, I was sleeping in my mom's bed as usual, and I woke up to the door opening. I didn't wake up to look at who it was, because I figured it was my mom. It was just me and her living at our house. I heard her walk towards the bed and then stop. It was a good 5 minutes before I heard the bed creak from her laying down. She laid down and put her arm around me. She never said anything, and neither did I, since I was half asleep. She didn't wake me up to move me to my room, so I just figured she was letting me sleep in her room that night. I drifted off, When I woke in the morning, I rolled over and saw my mom was gone. I walked downstairs and saw her sleeping on the couch. The title screen for Pretty in Pink was playing on the TV in the background. She woke up and smiled and asked me what I wanted for breakfast. I told her I'd just make myself a bowl of cereal. I headed to the kitchen and turned around to thank her for letting me sleep in her bed last night. She looked at me confused and said, "You didn't sleep in your room?" I told her no. She said she fell asleep on the couch. I said, "No, you came in the room last night." She looked at me even more puzzled and said, "No, I've been down here the whole time." I kept telling her, "No, you laid down next to me, and I even remember you putting your arm around me and stroking my hair." She looked horrified. Again, we lived alone. My mom has no history of sleepwalking either. To this day, my mom and I are still freaked out by this and don't really like to talk about it. Never happened again. Never had any other paranormal activity in the house either. Case notes for file 998. My mom put me to bed? So yeah, the obvious question here is, was your mom astrally projecting? Was it her spirit that put you to bed? That came to see you in bed? Or was it just her sleepwalking? Well, I don't think it's sleepwalking because it just happened once, as you said, it didn't happen again or before. A single case of sleepwalking and it never happens again? I don't think that's how it works. I could be wrong, but if it's not, then yeah, it would just be her soul paying you a visit for some reason. But it still begs the question of why. You know, we have all these accounts of things happening. I'm very confident of all these things happening. Ghosts, spirits, time anomalies, quantum immortality. Quantum immortality seems like a property of the universe, kind of like asking why gravity exists or why the electromagnetic force exists. It's just a fundamental nature. There's no trigger needed besides death. But for all these other glitches, it seems like a trigger is needed, but it's not clear what that trigger is. Why, if a person is able to astrally project, is it just in specific cases? I guess it's a certain mental state that's required. Perhaps she was thinking very fondly of you, very intensely about you while in dream state, and that projected her soul towards you to comfort you. It's kind of wholesome, really. I don't know if that's how it works, but it makes sense. Bonus file, written by Accomplished Work 454, The Cuyahoga Valley Shadow Monster. I'm from Ohio, in the United States. When I was in 4th grade, 10 years old, 19 now, me and my buddies were out in the woods behind my buddy's house. We were always back there growing up. There was a creek we would hop over, and just on the other side was a farm with some horses. One day, we had just jumped over the creek, but were still in the woods right by the creek. That's when we heard what sounded like a little girl screaming at the top of her lungs. Being young kids, we all just froze, thinking it was odd to hear such a vibrant scream in the middle of the day. About 5 to 10 seconds later, right in front of us, a black figure zoomed across some bushes and shrubs at lightning speed. We all looked at each other and then bolted out of the woods to my buddy's house. We were all in shock at what we just saw, and to this day we still talk about how creepy it was. It moved so fast there was no way it was human. And where I live, the only wild animals we have here are white-tailed deer, coyotes, and foxes. This thing was at least 6 to 7 feet tall and was black enough to look like a shadow or something. It didn't look like it was absorbing any light at all, or rather was absorbing so much light, it was the darkest black I've ever seen. I was just wondering if anyone else in Ohio, or the United States for that matter, has seen anything similar. I live right by the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, so maybe there have been some sightings there. But this was not in the national park, just a small patch of woods in a pretty suburban area. Case notes for the creepy file number 81. The Cuyahoga Valley Shadow Monster. So my first thought was of concern for the little girl. I do hope that her scream was merely reaction to seeing the shadow monster as well, and not that it attacked her or anything like that. Of course, you're just kids. I don't blame you for not rushing towards that sound of danger. Bolting home is probably what I would have done as well. I'm not a Bigfoot kind of guy. I mean, maybe Bigfoot exists. But it's certainly true, I think, that there are plenty of beasts and animals out there that we haven't fully discovered and mapped out yet. The world is just too big to have discovered it all. Maybe plenty of them live in caves or stuff, like The Descent, which is one of the most terrifying horror movies ever made. Don't watch it unless you want to be petrified for the rest of your life. And definitely don't go in spelunking in caves. Don't recommend it. And now time for the quote of the day. Do not go where the path may lead. Instead, Go where there is no path, and make your own. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I love this quote. I think it's all about charting your own destiny. I don't like the idea of fate. Maybe we live in a buffered reality, but we still made our own choices, and the universe we play through is of our own making, our own choices. You don't want to live in an environment where no matter what you do, the end result is guaranteed. No. You want to be able to explore the unexplorable. You know, this is something I've noticed in MMORPGs is that the magic is lost nowadays because there's too much information. Everything is instantly known, even for a brand new game. So what's the point? There's no discovery to be had anymore. Discovery is the key. As they say, knowledge is kind of a curse. It saps the fun out of life. If there's no mystery, what's the point?